Are you sick of feeling like you're being pulled in a million different directions because all of your kids need different things all of the time?
Then come along, because in this video we're going to give you tried and true methods that have worked between 6 kids.
Whether your kids are toddlers, preschoolers, as long as they can walk, you can try these methods with them to teach them to become independent. So we're going to try to walk you through the day and tell you all of the areas throughout the day where you can teach your kids how to do things for themselves. Starting off in the morning.
It's really important to have a morning routine that your child can follow. When they are really young, you want to make sure that you're monitoring it and just jumping in when they need your help, not necessarily doing everything for them. So one of the methods that I like to use is a little hand chart, and on each finger, it just shows them a visual of the 5 things that they need to do in the morning and then the 5 things that they need to do at night. So it's just a really nice way for them to lift up a finger or put it down when it's done.
And I just have a basic chart listed in our bathroom, and it has pictures of everything they need to do since they can't read yet and they can visually see what they need. There are Velcro pieces they can take off the tabs as they do them so they know it's done. Some of these things that they can do on their own is go potty. Obviously you will need to help with wiping, but they can try to do a few wipes on their own and then you can step in and help. Depending on how old they are, you can just do the wiping. Totally up to you. It depends on how old and how independent you think your kids can be.
And how much effort you actually want to put in. Now keep in mind, the more effort you put in, the more independent they'll become earlier.
When taking your kids potty, it's really helpful if you have pants that are easy on, easy off, so nothing with like zippers or buttons. If you have all that stuff to deal with, my 4 and 5-year-old who've been potty trained since before they were 2 still struggle with getting buttons on and off. I still have to help them with it, so just make sure you look for easy on, easy off pants.
We're going to do a whole video on potty training, but I do want to mention a tiny little tip for a child going to the bathroom by themselves. If you don't want to deal with the actual seat that you put on top, maybe because it moves or you just don't want to deal with it, we bought toilets that actually have a smaller seat built in. And so as an adult, when you go to the bathroom, you just lift up the toddler seat and it's just all together in one, instead of dealing with that bulky seat for a child to go to the bathroom.
We don't have those. We have the actual potty seat you put on there, but something we look for is that it has a P guard in the front, just to avoid some messy accidents or getting on their clothes, around their legs when they're sitting on the toilet. And so if you have to go that route instead of replacing your toilet seat, make sure you look for ones that have a P guard, and we also like ones that have sort of a higher back so it's kind of comfortable for them to sit on there.
And I have 3 girls, so I haven't even dealt with this potty guard thingy.
Another thing is brushing their teeth. You can either put the toothpaste on there for them, or you can unscrew it for them and have them do it themselves if they can put a small enough amount on there. My kids even started doing their own mouthwash lately, so it just totally depends on how much freedom you want to give them.
And make sure you give them just enough freedom to still keep your sanity. You don't want to get to the place where your 1.5-year-old is putting toothpaste on their toothbrush, but it's all over the sink and you're gonna lose it. You want to make sure you're teaching them little by little, kind of let go of your tasks so they can take over, but not all at once.
Always try to keep it age appropriate. As far as getting themselves dressed in the morning, if you need to get somewhere by a certain time, just make sure you start getting dressed earlier because it will take longer. If you're in a rush to get somewhere, you're going to be tempted to jump in and to just dress them yourself, and if they're struggling to get an arm through or get a leg through. So just plan enough time that you're okay with them taking 15 minutes to get a shirt on.
And also, don't forget to save time. You could also have them pick out their clothes the night before. That way in the morning, you're not having a struggle on what they should wear.
If you're a perfectionist like I am, you may have to give that up a little bit. I really like my kids to match and to not wear all these crazy colors. But in the beginning, you're trying to help them build confidence. And if you're oh, that outfit doesn't match, try again, or I don't like what you picked out, then obviously your kid's gonna be I don't want to pick out my clothes because I just can't do a good job. I have kids who are perfectionists, and so if I were to do that to them, it would totally destroy their confidence and they would just never want to do it again. So there may be days, if you know you're not going out and your kid is dressed rainbow bright, you just have to be okay with it, leave it for the day. And if you know you have to go somewhere the next day and you want them to be dressed a certain way, just plan to pick out their clothes the night before so that you can help them, and then in the morning they still feel like they picked out their own clothes.
The other thing I would add is making sure that if you are a perfectionist, one way to just kind of let go of that territory, which is the clothes, is making sure that you just pick kind of 1 or 2 colors for their bottoms, like black or denim, and then they could choose their shirts and it'll always match. It's just one way to make your life a little easier instead of always having a mismatch if that's one of the issues you have.
Another thing is making sure that the clothes in their closets are accessible to them. And so I have some things hung up, and so they have a stool in their closet so they can still pick up clothes that are hung up on a hanger. Also, I have like pajamas and stuff that they need to get to, often underwear, socks. They're all on the bottom drawer so they can pick them out themselves, and they don't need me there to be able to get them. So in the morning, if we're in the bathroom, we're done like going potty, brushing our teeth, I can just tell them, go to your closet, pick out your clothes, bring them back to me if you need help, or get yourself dressed over there. They don't need my help to do it, so it gives me more time to get other stuff done.
And I absolutely love the dresser method where everything is just in their dressers and it's super accessible to them.
Along with getting their morning routine done in the bathroom, make sure that the things in there are also accessible to them. So hand towels, for example, if you don't have a place to hang it low enough where they can reach, just have one folded up on the counter for them so they can dry their hands when they're done on their own. Something we have installed in our bathroom that has been awesome is a touchless faucet. It's motion activated, and so as soon as they put their hands there, they can just wash their hands. You don't have to worry about them getting soap all over the handles or saying, "Mommy, it's too cold," or "It's too hot." They don't have to regulate the temperature. It is super easy, and we have loved it since we've installed it. And we also have an automatic soap dispenser.
The only thing I would mention about if you choose the route of automatic soap dispenser, I'd highly recommend that you get the foam kind, because it's a lot quicker for a child to wash their hands with a foam one versus just regular soap. It takes so long for it to come off. So oftentimes I noticed, even when I was babysitting, all the ones that just were regular soap, I feel like it would be stuck on their hands for longer. They'd come out and they'd think they'd be done rinsing and there's still soap on there.
Going along this route of things being accessible, another area I would highly recommend to put low where they can reach it is dishes. Dishes and snacks and breakfast items, depending on if you're an early riser or if you want to sleep in like I do. I prefer to have cereals low in the cabinet so that they can munch on Cheerios or whatever until I get up in the morning to hold them off. We also put plates, bowls, dishes, cups in a low cabinet or drawer so that they can reach them. But the only thing I would say with this is make sure your child has enough self-control to not reach into the snack cabinet all the time if you're going this route, because if you have a kid who's constantly going to be sneaking in granola bars or whatever snacks you have in there and it's going to ruin their appetite later, then I would hold off on doing this. But if you have a kid who knows okay, snack time is at 10 o'clock, now you're allowed to go into the cabinet and they will restrain themselves, and this works out really nicely.
So if you guys saw earlier videos, we try to stay away from snacks and we do fruit, but we also do have a snack bin for during summer when we're more on the go. And I can tell you that our 2-year-old is definitely not ready to have access to it, because every single morning, as soon as he gets on the first floor, he goes there, he grabs something like a Lara bar and will come and say, "Open, open, help." And I'm like, yeah, this is not the right time. This is breakfast time. So I actually had to take the whole bin and move it to a higher level in the pantry so that he doesn't have access to it. So obviously some kids are definitely not ready for that.
There is something called a kitchen helper, which we have in our house, and it's been amazing. It's really nice because they can help at the counter when we're cooking versus having a chair, which you can totally also use, or a step stool. It's nice because I know that they can't fall backwards off of it, so they're just more secure. And it's definitely a splurge because it's expensive, but it's something that we've really loved in our house.
And I've wanted one since 4 kids ago, and I still don't have one because I'm just too cheap and I go with the step stool or chair racked.
Have you ever had a kick fall off?
No.
See? Well, those work too.
Another thing that they can do at such a young age is just make sure that they are getting their own water filled up. Again, they might need supervision, but I think just teaching them the idea that here we grab the cup and we put it here to get water in it. I can tell you my 2-year-old cannot do it. Our fridge has a weird way, and even guests will come over and they'll spill water all over the floor because the way it's just placed in the fridge, it doesn't work. So I'm pretty sure my child will basically learn how to fill up his cup when he's much older. But the point is just show them how it's done so that they can actually grow and learn how to do it. So if you have a child who's always climbing and can't really stand on a chair because you're scared they're gonna fall off, we have some of those. I can reassure you that they can sit in a high chair and still help you with cooking. And so our little one, again, likes to climb, grab things. If there's a knife close enough, he will climb on the counter to get it. So I was really concerned at first. So I actually put him in the high chair in the kitchen and give him things to chop. It's not perfect chopping. So if you want everything to be perfect, it's not gonna be perfect. But again, it's teaching him independence and teaching him how to help in the kitchen. And so it's really important to teach them and allow them the opportunity to gain that skill.
And there are kid-safe knives and gloves out there to avoid them cutting their hands.
Yeah, and the plastic knife that they use at such a young age, I'm telling you, they can start way before 2 years old with it.
After your kids are done eating at the table, you can have them bring their own dishes to the sink. And if you have a dishwasher, you can have them move it straight to the dishwasher so they're helping you load it throughout the day.
But in order to load it, make sure that your dishwasher is ready for that. So one of the first things that we do in the morning, as soon as we come down, is have the kids unloaded the dishes. Now, my kids cannot reach obviously the higher cabinets, or the dishes are just too heavy, like there's a stack of plates. So I actually just have them lay it on the counter, and then when I come down, or if I'm down there at the same time as I'm making breakfast, I'll just grab the things, lift them up, and put them away. But their job is still to empty out the dishwasher. So they might not be perfectly put away, but at least the ones that go high are ready for me to just pop them up.
Along with that, because my kids also do this, they take a dish rag and they'll like dry off any dishes that still need to be dried. Like I said, we do have like a cabinet for the kitty stuff, so they can put those things away. Anything that's in a drawer, like utensils or anything like that, they can do that themselves because they can reach. And again, they just make the piles for us, and anything they can't reach, they throw it up on the counter.
And this actually reminds me that a child, again, can start at a very young age. Our little one started way before he turned 2. We just didn't let him deal with the heavy things. So they can do all the plastic things, they can do the utensils without the knives. Even though they might not categorize them correctly, they're still getting the concept of putting things away.
This is also another area where you might want to just do this yourself because it takes so much longer with the kids. But if you suffer now, you will benefit from it later because you will have kids who know how to unload the dishwasher, and it's one less thing that you have to do. So just bear with them now, plan extra time for you guys to get this chore done, and just don't interfere and let them do it.
Yeah, it teaches them a life skill that they can actually do when they live on their own, and it also just takes a little bit off your plate. So definitely a win-win situation.
So I was very fortunate and unfortunate that I was not forced to do dishes or empty the dishwasher until I was older. And I will say my poor mom had a horrible time with me because I was a really bad teenager, and then I complained every single time I had to do it, and I put up a big fuss. And I feel like when you start so young, it's just like a part of life and they don't think about complaining about it. Sure, there's some days that they're like, Mom, I don't really want to do that today. But if they just do it every day and it's just normal, it's just what they do in the morning, you'll have a lot less time trying to fight with them as a teenager to build this habit than just doing it from the get-go.
For sure. And just because they have to do that as a chore, keep in mind there's days that you can bless them. And we've talked about blessing them in previous videos where you can wake up, you might be up before them, and you can come down, do it, and then be like, hey guys, time to do dishes. And when they come, they're like, oh, they're done. Did you do them for us? I love that. It feels like a little gift for them. And they do that in return. So if you're planning on leaving the house, we cannot emphasize enough leaving enough time to actually make sure that they're getting ready, that they go to the bathroom, that they're getting themselves dressed. But it's really important that they learn to put on their shoes, put on their coats, zippies, whatever it is, to be able to leave their house. You don't want to end up 5 minutes before it's time to go trying to bundle everybody up to leave. So just make sure, again, it's a skill that you allow time for. So if you need to leave the house at a certain time, just set a timer 20 minutes early. If you feel like you need more time, start off with even more time, like 30 minutes, then drop to 20, then 15, and then at some point, hopefully in the future when they're teens, you can get out of the house in 5 minutes.
Along with this, when you're shopping for shoes for your kids, in the summers, my kids live in Crocs just because it's super easy. They can slide them on, or look for sneakers or shoes that have Velcro on them, because if they have to tie, that's a skill that they learn a lot later, and you're still going to have to be involved in helping them with that. So if you can find shoes that are easy on, easy off, it will make your life so much easier.
Yes, the worst is when they're trying to slip their foot in and the back, they just can't pull it enough for their foot to go in. I mean, I sometimes struggle to help them put them on. And so I'm at that place where with our 2-year-old, I'm like, these shoes are just not needed. Like if he can't put them on his own and they're hard for me, they're gone. If you don't know the Colt Method, it's really, really neat because you lay down the coat and basically a little child under 2 can basically slip their hands in and throw it over their heads. Sometimes if your kid's a little more plump, then they struggle a little more, but it's okay, they'll get there.
If you have multiple kids, my kids like to help each other, so one of them will hold the coat for the other person while they put their arms in, and then they'll switch, and that's also really nice when they can just help each other if they can't get that other coat method down.
I can talk about laundry for hours, but if you want a child who's independent and again can live on their own when they're older, knowing how to do their laundry and keep up with loads and loads of laundry, then teach them young. They can definitely start helping as soon as they can walk. I mean, technically speaking, they can crawl and help, but that's maybe possibly a little too much. But as soon as they walk, they could just do simple things like helping actually take their clothes, their dirty clothes, and putting them in the washing machine. And then same thing when the washer is done, they could take the clothes and move them to the dryer. I would probably stay away from teaching them how to press buttons because I did that with our little one, and I came down to the washer and the dryer running with no clothes in it. So make sure that you actually teach them when it's age appropriate how to use the buttons.
As far as putting away laundry, We used to have a system which was really nice where we just had buckets and then we had pictures of like short sleeve shirts on one bucket and long sleeve shirts on one bucket and pants on one bucket, and that actually worked really nice because it's kind of like a game. You have all the buckets laid out, and then when they're going through their laundry they just kind of throw their short sleeve shirts in a bucket and long sleeve, and there's no folding involved. And that worked really well when they were really little. Now my kids are a little bit older, so they can kind of help me put stuff in the drawers. And I've become a little bit more obsessed with having their clothes organized where I want them to be folded and I want to see them all now. And so we've abandoned that method, but when they were young, if you don't care about having your clothes folded, it is really, really nice.
And my kids folded for years, and I just felt bad that they were still folding, and so I just switched to a new method that they love, which is laying it down in their drawers, no folding involved. So they're kind of getting a break for a few years.
And it's okay to switch it up. If you feel like you want to get your kids to learn how to fold, then you can make them do that. If it's taking too long and you want to switch to a bucket method or just kind of throwing them in the drawers, whatever works for you. It depends on your sanity. So if it makes you feel insane to look in the drawers and to see clothes that are not folded, then don't do it. But if it doesn't make you insane, and if having to like fold everything does and put them in specific places, then just go with the throwing the stuff in there. No one's looking inside your drawers.
I will tell you that when Alana first mentioned the bucket method, like way back when we first started recording, I was like, there's no way I can do that. I need the clothes folded. I want to be able to see them facing up vertically. And I was really big on them folding and teaching them how to fold. And then I got to the place where I just felt like I was kind of killing the joy out of laundry, if you even have any joy in laundry. I have a little bit of a joy, the satisfaction, but I switched to this new method where they just lay it down, and I just feel like there's a smudge less complaining. Like it's not a pain in the butt anymore. So now they just go ahead and lay them down, and when I open the drawer, I already know that I'm not expecting perfection in those drawers because they're just laying them down. So I've also lowered my standards, something that everybody needs to try.
So essentially, we've switched. I think the number one thing that drives moms crazy is just seeing toys scattered all over the house. And having to clean up those toys is the worst. And so having your kids learn to clean up after themselves is such a big help, and it really helps your sanity. And so what we do in our house is before they go to bed, we have like a cleanup time, and it has gotten so much easier. I remember in the beginning it was like a hassle. They would cry to do it. They didn't know where things went, but now we have things clearly labeled. And since they're not strong readers yet, we have picture labels on all of the bins so they can visually see where things go. And because they know where everything's home is, it's not overwhelming for them to try to figure out where to put things. And things are put away in the right spot so they know where to find them the next day, and they're not constantly asking me like, Mommy, where's my toy that I want that I can't find? And because they've done it so many times now, because we do it every single night, it's done in like 5 minutes, whereas before it literally took like a half hour to clean it up and we had to help them so much. If you make it a habit and it's just second nature to them, cleanup becomes so much easier.
And again, don't forget you can switch things up. So if you try a method and it doesn't work, just try something else. Like you could do a cleanup song, you can set a timer, you can do pick up 10 where everybody just picks up 10 things. Again, depending on how many kids you have. Obviously, if there's 100 things out, then you need to do some calculations in your head to figure out how many things each person has to pick up. But there's a lot of different things you can do to help them pick things up and put it away.
Another thing we've done in our house, and we've talked about this in other videos, is they have a 2-bin max, and so each of them are allowed to pick out 2 bins, and they're allowed to pull those toys out, and if they want to bring out another bin, they have to clean up those bins first so that there's not like 100 things on the floor, because that's when it becomes overwhelming. And that really helps with cleanup at the end of the day. We also have a rule where they're supposed to keep their toys inside their playroom, because if they're not like having to go all over the house on a scavenger hunt to find toys, it also makes cleanup faster. Sometimes we make exceptions to this rule. If we want to like build something fun with them in the living room and have them closer to us, then we'll make exceptions. But they just know it's not like an all the time everyday thing where they can have like 2 bins in the living room and 2 bins in the family room and 2 bins upstairs in their bedroom, because then it's a big mess and I get overwhelmed trying to clean that up. So I can only imagine how they feel.
Speaking of how the kids feel when everything is out and they have to put everything away, don't forget you could also do toy rotation where you just have, let's say, 2 bins out total, and then with time you like rotate them. So it's really narrowed down to just a few toys, making it a lot more manageable for a child to be able to clean up and put it away. Another thing is just kind of getting rid of all the toys, which I've done this years ago. I think it was 5 years ago when we did it. We basically tucked everything away, and they could ask for a handful of things that we told them a day. Like they got to, let's say, pick 2 things the first day and then a few more the next day. They just kind of showed us the toys that they believed were important, because now it's based on memory, right? So they have to actually remember what they had. I think it's a really cool method if you have way too many toys and you don't really know what they find important, even though they claim to play with every single one of them. I highly recommend you try the method.
In the beginning, you're going to need to help them with this. If I would have told my kids the very first times like, oh, just go put your stuff away, and if I wasn't in there with them doing it, they would just cry and throw tantrums and be super overwhelmed. So I would help them. In the beginning, I helped them, put everything away. And the next time I was like, okay, I'll help you with one bin and you have to do the second bin by yourself. And the second day I was like, okay, I'll be in there for 5 minutes and then you guys will clean up the rest. After I'm done with the 5 minutes, I'm done helping. And now I'm at the point where I can just stand back and they can do it all on their own. But no, in the beginning, you will have to help them with this. You will have to show them how to do it, and eventually they will be able to do it independently.
And when you get to the place where they can do it independently, make sure you inspect. I cannot emphasize that enough. So many people will be like, oh, I ran out of the house and now my kid's room was upside down. It's really important to go inspect it so that you're keeping them accountable, just like sometimes we need accountability as adults. Like I try to keep them accountable, morning routines, everything. Just the accountability is really important for kids because it takes a really long time for them to actually build a habit.
And make sure, along with the accountability, that they're not just throwing things like in random places, like hiding them under the bed or under the couch or just throwing things in random bins, because that's when the next day they can't find things and they get frustrated, and then you're spending an hour looking for their favorite toy. And so at the end, make sure you're looking, making sure things are actually in their real homes where they're supposed to be. And make sure you reward them or praise them when they do it correctly. In the beginning, we utilized treats a lot, and so we would give them like a chocolate raisin, or sometimes we'd give them candy, or we would do like cookie dough bites, and we did that daily until eventually, if they cleaned up really well for the whole week, then they would get one at the end of the week. And now they just know to clean up with no expectation of a reward, but in the beginning you may have to give them a motivator so that they want to do it. Okay, so now we're at bedtime routine. This is very similar to morning routine. Obviously have them go potty, brush their teeth. You may want to have them shower. Of course, you have to monitor them because they're still little, but you can start teaching them how to wash their own bodies. And before they even get in, make sure that they don't throw their clothes on the floor. Make sure they throw them straight into the hamper so that at the end of the night, you don't have all these clothes lying around that they have to clean up.
And I cannot emphasize, y'all, that it's going to take a very long time. Like if a child gets used to dropping their clothes, it's going to take a very long time to break that habit. I mean, there's adults that still drop their clothes, so it makes sense that it's just these life skills are just hard to actually instill. But if you start young, they will definitely do a better job.
It's a lot harder to break them out of a habit and teach them a new habit than just to have them grow up with these habits and to have them instilled at an early age. I still put my clothes on the floor throughout college and even a few years into marriage, so it definitely takes a long time to learn this. So it's really nice if they just go into life already just doing these things. So mamas, there you go. We've walked you through the day. Just a few reminders. Make sure, we've already mentioned this, give yourself extra time for all of these activities and for all of these skills. If you're leaving the house, make sure you start, 15 minutes earlier. You're getting dressed, you have to go somewhere, get dressed 15 minutes earlier. You're doing the dishes, loading the dishwasher, unloading the dishwasher. Make sure you plan for extra time. Don't jump in and interfere and do it for them, because then you're just, number one, destroying their confidence because they're like, oh, I'm not doing a good enough job, or I'm not going fast enough. And you're just making life harder on yourself, because another thing they learn is, oh, if I don't do it fast enough, mommy will end up doing it for me. That's what I learned as a kid, and I pulled that over all the time on my mom. Sorry, mom. But so don't do that, because that's instilling bad habits in your kids. So just allow for extra time. Give your kids grace if they make mistakes. Encourage them, praise them, reward them, anything to motivate them. Eventually it will become habit, and you don't have to keep giving them treats or giving them stickers or promising them dates or whatever system you choose to reward them with. But in the beginning, do use motivators, because eventually your kids will not whine about it, they won't cry about it, they'll just do it. It's part of life, and your life will be so much easier, and they will be independent and confident, and it will be awesome.
And you've gained your sanity back. You're welcome. And if you guys are still not subscribed, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and we will see you guys next time.